Hi, I'm Laurie with To The Trade for Interior Design Community, and I have a very special guest, somebody we don't normally have on the show. He's not a designer. Phil, please introduce yourself. Tell our audience a little bit about you.
First, Laurie, thank you so much for having me. We had such a great time hosting you at our showcase last year, and it was really great to connect with you one-on-one in several different occasions and settings. So thanks again. I'm super grateful. I am a plumbing contractor in plumbing and HVAC in San Francisco, California, but we also have a decorative showroom. You see some of the fixtures that we carry behind me. So we have a unique business model. We're kind of, I guess, like design build in our own niche kind of way, but we also work on HVAC equipment and boilers and things like that. And I'm also the president of DPHA, or the Decorative Plumbing and Hardware Association, which is a trade-specific association. Think of it as I guess for designers that are familiar with KBIS, it's a much more focused showcase with decorative plumbing and hardware brands, a lot of those luxury boutique brands that are maybe not in the mainstream, but you see in, high-end hotels or residential spaces. But we all have a educational element, and we provide a lot of resources. So it's very trade specific.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of it, honestly. And then a few years ago, one of the people working for them, Kim, came into our group and met her. And of course, Jocelyn Hutt, who is a dear friend of mine, she works with your organization, volunteers for your organization. So
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten to learn a lot about it. And I actually think it's really interesting. And of course, coming to your last event, I was blown away. I mean, it is not the big show that you would see at KBIS. It's much more boiled down to some of the luxury boutique brands, like you said. But you did some really interesting things, and we'll get into a lot of that later. I don't want to go for all of that first, because let's start with what is DPHA? So for someone who's never heard of it, what is it? Exactly. Like Decorative Plumbing and Hardware Association means you're just a small little group. You're just, focusing on that area. But I think what you've got is so interesting and could be even bigger, really, frankly, because you do so many things well that other people don't do. That's what I'm seeing.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
Well, it's to try not to overwhelm anybody. Essentially, it connects all of the different member segments in our industry. In our industry, we have brands or manufacturers, we have manufacturer representatives or independent reps, and we have showrooms. So it originally spawned because showrooms and our little community needed something else besides KBIS. KBIS does great. They're affiliated with NKBA. It's a very large show. It has a lot to offer. It's a different setting, but we needed our own community, our own showcase, our own setting where our different member segments can really connect on a deep and authentic level. So that's kind of the setting that we've created. We're always usually in a hotel, always in the same space together, and that's so we could spend quality time. At a larger show, might you might have some flybys. You might, like you see someone on the floor, you're like, hey, what's going, and you want to talk to them, you want to connect, but everybody's kind of so busy and going in different directions that sometimes it may never happen. Maybe if you make time like offsite, it could. But our showcase, I think you experienced it. It's not just a product showcase. We have education segments that go deeper into whatever category or subject matter that we might be interested in. And I would say in recent years, we have really made an effort, concerted effort, to connect with the specifier community because we recognize their value. They set the trends. They drive the market. They're the ones that give us the frontline feedback on what's actually going on the job site. What do clients connect with? What do they like? And so they've become, for me as a showroom owner as well, they've become sort of a glue as far as like connecting the brand with a homeowner. And so we've really made a concerted effort to connect with them in recent years, trying to understand what resources we can provide them in our little space. How can we be more of an asset to them in decorative plumbing and hardware? How can we help? How can we make that bond and connection stronger? And so we've been somewhat successful. Some designers have come to our showcase. We have a design newsletter, but I think we're looking for a little bit more, and so that's why we're here today.
Yeah,
One of the
yeah.
reasons.
And I will tell you, I really like the format of your show because if you're thinking about it from a design perspective, like you said, it's in a hotel room. There's, a area where the brands are set up. They're small little booths. These are boutique products that you might not see at the bigger shows, period, end of story, because they wouldn't have a huge presence they're smaller but more high quality. That is the game. So there's deep conversations, real business being done, real ideas being exchanged. One of the things I thought was a highlight for me was the roundtable discussion that you had sort of at the end of the event, where it was a mix of people from different walks of the business. So it was manufacturers and reps and showroom owners and designers in a room. And there was a moderator, and the topics were sent in previously. So they were very current, important topics. One of the topics we covered was obviously tariffs, but we also talked about the changing economy of and how our, different segments were handling various issues and how to work better together, and just to see it from other perspectives. Sometimes we just get so myopic about our world and how we handle things. I know designers, we do. It's like, oh, it came in, it's damaged, or having a difficult time dealing with this brand, or if the client's mad at me because of this, or it's taking too long. We just think about our own world and our own problems, and we don't think about the various ways that other people are dealing with their issues and how they are dealing with their issues. And so many times, just knowing that little factor can be a huge, like, oh, okay, now I get you. I have empathy for you. I understand where you're coming from. And it was really interesting. We talked about real things. It was very closed off and private. So it wasn't like this is going to make it out there. If you really wanted to talk about top secret stuff, you were allowed to. And everyone in the room really was respectful of open ideas and thoughts. And I thought it was really long too. It was like a 2.5 hour discussion. And I felt like it was incredibly high value, like incredibly high value. So how did you figure out that structure?
We've figured out the structure because we send out a survey every year, and we take the feedback really seriously. And what we were noticing was we were noticing that there was this pattern of people wanting more interactive segments or breakouts. I mean, and it made sense because in the board meeting, we're always saying like, okay, so what are our strengths? Okay, it's all about connection, authenticity, people getting together, sharing resources and ideas. Well, we need to create the setting for that. If that's what people want, and if that's what we're saying is a strength for our association, then we need to provide those opportunities. And we were finding, so we started one year with roundtables, and we plan ahead. We don't just say, hey, put all these people in a room and let's just start chatting. We get feedback on real topics that people want to talk about, issues, real events that could be happening, and we implement that. So what we were finding was that there was that we would like say, we'll do like an hour and a half and, whatever. And that we were going much longer because all of these conversations were happening. And even, it doesn't matter. I mean, even sometimes there's competitors in the room, but they want to talk to each other and they want to figure out, what's going on in the market, what's going on in the industry. And so, yeah, people just want more interaction, and we do it not just through roundtables, but we've also started some other interactive segments that have spawned some, more relationship building, networking, and even not, throughout the year, not just at Showcase. I think you mentioned Kimberly's doing such a great job with hosting these interactive webinars that are keeping people engaged throughout the year. So we're expanding on that as well. I would just say overall, like the association is just it's a deeper dive. And I think that's what people are seeking is it's if you're in a niche environment, you can't you can't just deliver basic content or stuff that only scratches the surface. People really want to know in true substance and at the core of what's going on. And sometimes you only get that in a smaller, intimate environment and community.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think that that's where you can have real change, real, and it's policy, it's general policy. I mean, I know one of the topics that we discussed that I don't think would be, hard, would be not public is that, when we were talking about tariffs, how do you present that to the client? Some clients want that hidden, so it's just part of the price and you're not seeing it as a line item. Some people want that as the line item so that, well, hopefully they're protecting that major brands or even smaller brands aren't going to, if a day comes that these tariffs don't exist anymore, we don't want that to be the standard price anymore. We don't want
Mhm.
inflated, costs, especially if it's a significant price increase.
Yeah.
From the buyer's perspective, having a little bit of transparency is good if it's short term. If it's long term, it's a totally different game. And so, just
Yeah.
thinking out those strategies. And, I've had brands in other worlds say, this is how we're handling it, or that's how we're handling it. Like I have a brand who told me privately, like they were taking their container loads and shipping it back, hoping that they could land on a day that the tariffs wouldn't be ridiculous. So it's just, there's all sorts
Yeah.
of strategies I think brands are handling, how they're handling this so that they can make the best decisions for a huge amount of people to keep the costs as low as they possibly can and to give the service that they need to serve the entire down chain, including the showrooms, including the reps, including the designers. And so having those open dialogue conversations about
Hmm.
real business problems and understanding how other people are handling different segments, it's just so eye-opening. I mean, I love that you're doing it. I had a couple of people in your brand talk about how to sell in comparison, how to sell against, some of the bigger brands that are more recognizable. Like, what do you do when your designer only wants, you know, a Delta product or
Yeah.
something? And how do you work that out? And what kinds of events do you have in the showroom that designers really value? Those kinds of things. And I think even your organization is asking a lot of the right questions about how we can service each individual market segment and how we can have better conversations together. And I don't think that's really being addressed out there. I mean, usually everyone is in there. The manufacturers maybe talk to each other, but they're
Mm.
really have their own strategies, and some of them are keeping their cards close to the vest. And the showrooms are either independent or bigger showroom, and they have their activations and their plans, and everybody's in these little silos and not really discussing, but we
Yeah.
impact each other in such a big way. So having a level of understanding is so important.
Absolutely. I think the point you're bringing up about better mutual understanding and awareness of what our two communities are going through is really essential. And
Yeah.
that's what our goal is. I'll tell you that I never fully understood the interior design world. Didn't know what they were going through. I knew that I was working alongside them, but it wasn't until I started going to events like this, through ASID and other specific organizations, and then I started going to some presentations. I wanted to get to know them, and I wanted to
Sure.
better understand what they were going through. I acquired so much empathy from listening to stories and listening to what goes on. But I've call it like the front lines because they're the ones interfacing the most with clients. And I was like, oh my God,
I know.
it's it's a lot.
It's a
It's
lot.
sometimes, yeah, sometimes you're a therapist, sometimes
Yes.
you're working through, you're not just decorating or designing a home, you are in it
Yeah.
with those people. And so I really,
Sometimes for 3 years. I mean, it's
yeah,
a long-term relationship. I mean, and everything that goes wrong along the way, or those last
yeah.
straggling pieces that just haven't shown up yet, or,
Yeah,
you know.
and so really, so at that connection level, I was like, wow, it I attained a lot of empathy. I understood them more. I would and but what that helped me do was I was able to better service them because I understood what they were going through. I was able to
Sure.
anticipate problems where they might need more help, and like even the post sale. So like I call it, in our showroom, I call it the post sale phase, where it does not end at the transaction. Just because someone gives you an order doesn't mean it's over and they have the product. No, there's this whole phase of the product's got to get installed, it's got to work, and the client's got to be happy with it. That could take months or even a year or two before you finally see the full life cycle of an order. So I better understood that, and I was able to share that knowledge and expertise with our team here, and our technicians and plumbers too, not just our design consultants. So that's what we're trying to achieve in DPHA, is just, it's not just with our own member segments, but now we're trying to reach out to trade professionals, and we're trying to build better connections so that we can better understand and better service them. You brought up tariffs. That was a huge topic in
Sure.
our roundtables, and there was a lot of things going. I mean, people are obviously, it was going to be a hot button issue. And I think the biggest takeaway for me in that was, it's like, look, I discovered, and a lot of us discovered, that transparency is a currency. That the more transparent you are with whoever the client designer or whoever, you need to be transparent, because as I'm sure as you know and you've experienced, that any surprises that come later, you lose trust, and once you lose trust, it's gone. And
Right.
so now more than ever, transparency is a pretty high value currency. But another takeaway was behavior or approach about selection, about product selection. I just say I'm transparent first, and then I say, look, you may want to take a more decisive approach with your product selection phase, because these prices they may change next week. I don't know.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, so it could change, it could alter your whole presentation, your quote, whatever you're presenting to the client. Be decisive, refine your skills in, like, figuring out what is needed, what is wanted, and all of that. Try to avoid these long periods of deliberation or back and forth or indecisiveness or arguing, whatever could be happening. I don't know. And so those were two major takeaways, and that, and manufacture. And now we understand manufacturers, like, because of that unpredictability, manufacturers like, well, we don't know what to do. But guess what? Showrooms want transparency of where their materials are coming from. So
Right.
now we place a higher level of accountability of, like, okay, well, you say your product is made in Germany or Italy. Is it really? Or is, like, some of it, is it assembled there? Or is
Right.
it made, and so we have almost like placed more accountability on the manufacturers through those conversations of, like, hey, you need to be more transparent about where your materials are coming from and the manufacturing process, not just where something's getting assembled, where it's actually made. People want to connect with that story. They want to know the story, they want to know where it comes from, and they want to know how it's made. And so that kind of travels all down the line, but it all comes from those, like you were saying, it comes from those dialogues. And that's why not just the roundtables, but just that whole network experience really, really matters. And it only happens in person. I can't send an email complaint to a manufacturer. I can't get to know a designer by email or online. I need to, you need to feel and connect. And so, I mean, I think there's a lot of good substance there, but I mean, we touched on a lot of great topics
No,
for
it's
sure.
I think that's essential, honestly. I mean, we had
Yeah.
some of the topics we really talked about in our group, and I think are things that, I know we in our community talk about a lot. I just want to touch on a few things. Like, first of all, we welcomed for interior design community showrooms and manufacturers for years. And I got a lot of pushback from designers originally. They were like,
Okay.
you should not let them in because we sometimes want to complain about them and we don't want them to see. And I was like,
Yeah.
no, I do. I want you to complain about them with them seeing. How do you want them to change anything if they don't see the
Yeah.
complaints? Like we can't solve these problems if we're talking to each other and we're not really, I mean, they didn't want to have any punitive
Yeah.
reactions to their complaints. They wanted to be able to vent with peers, which I understand. And I have explained to the manufacturers, you're here to solve the problem. You're here to, and believe me, the feedback I get from the reps, the showrooms, the brands, they have completely changed the way they've done business because of the empathy level. So I believe
Hmm.
it has made a huge positive impact on our industry that these people can hear the problems, understand where the issues are, and can
Hmm.
navigate it. Sometimes it's a hugely expensive thing. We were having we did a work with Design Edge. They're a small trade show as well. And we do a conference. And one of the things that we did last year was for the first time was have a panel discussion was 3 designers and the audience. It was the day of setup. So it was the audience was the manufacturers they're on the booth on the show
Yeah.
floor during the event. So this was an opportunity for them to have conversation and dialogue with the designers. There were lots of positive changes that happened just because of that conversation for the next day, even. Like we had a brand, one of the designers was like, if we're at a trade show, obviously we can't collect a million lookbooks because
Yeah.
we're going to look at that online anyway. So if you just have a QR code or something like that, I don't want to carry a bunch of stuff that I'm going to throw away
They
anyway.
want finished samples.
Yeah. And even then, only the ones that they care about, not,
Yeah. Yeah.
if you're in, let's just say, Hermosa Beach or LA, the amount
Hmm.
of room you have, because the cost of real estate is so expensive, the amount of room you have for sampling is small. And so
Yeah.
you have to keep your sample area very tight to what you are going to be specifying. And so even finished samples, like they don't want a million of them. They want what they're going to be using in the next couple of years because they can't store that at a huge expense to them. And
Hmm.
so there are times when the generosity of the brand, they're thinking like, I want to give one to every designer in your firm. No, they're going to get thrown away. Give one to the firm. That's it, because they share the samples and then it comes back to the sample department. How they work their sample room, you need to know so that you're not wasting your resources. And then the other thing that we talked about was that, their emails are always flooded after any show, right? So, or before a show. And I know because I go to all the shows as well.
I
And
get
for
them.
some reason,
Yeah.
you and I probably get the same emails because they don't,
Yeah.
it always is random. I'm not a designer, but I'm getting the same emails as a designer saying, oh, you've got to come by the booth, make an appointment, see our sample. I'm getting 100 of those before the show.
Yeah.
And then after the show, so lovely to see you, blah, 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 about our new product lines, if Dropbox, blah, all of that stuff. Well,
Yeah.
I'm getting hundreds of those on the same days. So there's no way I can look at all of that. There's no way any of the designers can look at that. And we suggested, and this is a really huge tip, was that brands should engage social media more and reach out via DM, reach out via just having real conversation with, and showrooms can do this too, reps can do this, like reach out on social media. It's less clogged as far as correspondence all the time. And
Hmm.
one of the brands took that seriously. And the other thing I will say just before we move forward is that in the year of 2026, Instagram is now adding DMs to the algorithm. So it is actually going to help you to have more DMs coming and going from your DM. It will help
I didn't
your,
know that.
yes, it's a
I
huge
did not know
thing.
that.
It is going to help your algorithm to
Okay.
have DMs working and more DMs anyway. So it's a great
Mm-hmm.
strategy for anybody out there to think about upping the DMs this year.
Okay.
But one brand took it upon themselves after the show to DM each designer who came and just like, hey, da, da, and they were blown away by the response
At the
because
at the
they were getting, it's a conversation you just started, not a drop something in my inbox for me to look
yeah.
at. It was, hi, oh my gosh, it was so nice to see you at the show. What is it that you're doing? What projects are you working on? Or
Yeah, yeah.
you're DMing, you're texting them, you're having a conversation with them, you're not selling them. I
Yeah.
think that's what we need to be considering, is that designers have thousands and thousands of choices for every category, and they're going to go to what they feel is comfortable, but they're also going to go to the people that they feel they have a relationship with. And you don't have to end that at the trade event. You can keep that conversation going and real relationship. Like, you can notice the
Mm-hmm.
designers that you're working with. Like, did they just get a new project that you can tell is a bigger project than their typical project? And you can say, whoa, I saw you leveled up. Like, it's a human being experience. Like,
Yeah.
even from the trade show, even the manufacturers, they're human beings too. They have, they're everybody that works for them has kids at home and, braces to pay for and things that they are required to do. So,
Totally.
seeing each other as people is only going to get our industry tighter. And I also wanted to talk about your storytelling conversation. We agree with that 1000%,
Mm-hmm.
that the designers are walking into those clients' homes without a whole lot of you know, information. The clients have never heard of any of our brands. So they have to create this magical moment. Why is this faucet, $1,500 where I can go to Lowe's and buy one for $300? It looks the same. It might even be the same brand. You know what I mean? Yeah, you can say it's heavier, you can talk about it, but like, I need some stories. I need some magic to be able to, I went to Delta Brizo, and the industrial engineers came out and they talked about how they made the Virage, and it was like hand honed for the first years. The guys literally like got bigger muscles on one arm because they were hand honing in them. And there was
Uh-huh.
a lot of breakage. Like, they had, I think, 40 or 50% of it was failing at first, because it was supposed to be an engineering marvel to have this bend in it that it had. And it was work to make it actually work. You need those stories. That's why it's expensive. It's something that isn't typical, done for beauty, but you still need it to run and function and not clog. I mean, it's a faucet, so it has to work that way. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and the materials that are involved in inside and outside. And the designers have to have that information too, so that they can say why it's expensive and can say it's why it's worth the extra expense for the client, and that it's special and that it's something that they're not typically going to see out there. That's also future building for the designer, because of course they want materials that not everybody sees. They want to not necessarily follow every trend, because they want the house that they're designing to have sustainability in the style of the home too, so that,
Mm-hmm.
as they care so much more about the flow and how people live in the home, but beyond that, they still want to make very smart decisions about materials, because they know they want their client to have a wise investment in materials. They have to be
100%.
product experts. They have to know everything. They have to be able to sell it all. I mean, they are selling thousands of products within every project. It's remarkable that they can remember as
Mm-hmm.
much as they do.
I I'm amazed. That was one of the things I was amazed about, is that like I could be an expert in this, decorative plumbing and hardware. That's a niche category. But designers have to be experts in everything. And that is mind blowing to me.
It is.
That and I would say like the storytelling aspect we're learning is the essence of how somebody connects to something that they're buying.
Sure.
And it's going in their home and their bathroom or kitchen, which is a very intimate space. And so we're finding like, yeah, they want to know more about it because they want to feel connected to a product. Almost it gives them more value. But beyond that though, I like to very simply kind of like there's a lot of parallels between our industry and like I would say fashion. You could make an easy analogy and say like you were talking about a lot of the big brands before, like how do you distinguish or determine like why do we use this big brand and why do they only want to use that versus all these boutique brands? Kind of like fashion, you're exposed to department store. You go into a department store, see a bunch of basic brands. You know them, they're familiar. They spend tons of dollars on marketing, but because they have a lot of money. And then you have fast fashion brands online that you seem to see like on Instagram or like targeted ads. You're like, oh, I've never heard of this brand, but I'm getting a bunch of ads for them. That happens in plumbing and hardware. You have these huge brands that everybody's familiar with and everybody knows, and there's like this immediate connection of like, oh, I know that brand, they must be good. Fast fashion brands that you get ads for, like you're like, oh, I'm getting an ad for a $900 smart toilet.
Yeah.
It looks really nice, and then it works for a year or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. And then you
Yeah.
have like in fashions, I had to go through that same thing in fashion where it's like, oh, I discovered all these like cool boutique brands in New York City or other areas where I was like, oh, I'm more connected to these brands because I'm, trying to style myself.
You
I'm trying
know
to,
the story, you know,
yeah,
like, where it's made, you know why it's special, like, that
yeah.
matters
But
to them too, like
it's a form of unique expression.
yeah,
And you're like, this is for me. This is who I am. It's not just something that everybody else is wearing. I would say those are our brands in DPHA. It's the deep cuts. It's like these are the brands that if you're a real lover of what we do, this is what you put in your house.
right.
I don't put basic stuff. I want stuff that I connect with, stuff that I really care about. I like seeing like little unique details or some kind of unique styling it's a form of expression
Every
in my
designer
house.
should
Yeah.
be paying attention because every designer, this is how you separate yourself from everything else that's out there. If they're getting builder grade, you don't want builder grade stuff. You want to be putting things in there that are special and that are unique and that, that you're not going to see everywhere because then it's not going to be, a commodity product that is copied everywhere. And the future
Yeah.
of it is going to be longer too because it won't go out of fashion so fast, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's like it hits all the touch points, quality, longevity, sustainability, unique styling, but that's where the connection really happens. And like you were saying, like it's distinctive. That's how you separate yourself. You don't want to have just a builder grade or like just a track home where it's like 10 homes are all the same, they got all the same products in there. The house that you live in, you want it to be your house. You want it to be your style. You want it to express yourself, tell the story of your home, your family. And you want it to be special. Like you use your bathroom every day, multiple times a day. That should be a sacred, special place. You should love going into your bathroom, whatever the details that are in there, you should love walking in there. It will make you happier. Same with your kitchen for people who love to cook and all their time in the kitchen or entertain or have parties, whatever it is. You want that to be unique to you. And you want people to walk in there and say, oh my God, I love it in here. This is so you.
Yes.
So that's,
And you as the designer, I know I just came back from Vegas Market and I spent a lot of time with my friend Shannon Jem, who's a designer in Malibu. And she says, it's so, when you as a designer have met, the industrial engineer or you have these smaller brands, you get to meet senior leadership often, much more often than bigger brands. So,
Okay.
to be able to have those stories to your client and say, oh, I've been toward their factory, or I've seen how that is made. I met the president of the company. These stories help legitimize your role as an authority in the product selection process anyway, because then they, as the client, and she's like, I've heard that parroted back to me, later. So the client will say, oh, my designer knows the president of that brand. She's toured the factory, or my designer, they
Yeah.
love that too, because this isn't like a Louis Vuitton bag, that people
Yeah.
instantly can spot and can be jealous of.
And a lot of them are family
Secret
owned.
story.
They're
Yes.
not, yeah,
Yeah.
they're not owned by some, I mean, some brands aren't. There's a lot of consolidation. That's a
Sure.
different
Sure.
conversation. But a lot of these factories that you go to, or a lot of these brands, they're family owned.
Generations too, by the
Yeah,
way. Generations.
yeah, like we actually took a couple of designers to the Hydro Systems factory in LA, and you got like the brothers and the sisters working there, and you meet all of them. And then they
Yes.
have, and then it's like the people who shape the tubs, it's like, it's right there. The office is here. They shape the tubs right there, and they all interact, and like they're friends. They hang out outside, and you get to know them on that level, or like, and so there's none of this like separation, or like the factories over here. Like I was that visit, it was mind blowing for me, but also the designers were like, wait a minute, your offices are right here, and then there are the tubs, and then the technical department is right there. We're like, yeah, they all
I
work together.
encourage designers to go to as many factory tours as they possibly can. You will never feel more connected. And
Yeah.
while I was away, I did a little stop I've been a judge for a long time for Design KC magazine. So I went to their gala. They have an annual gala celebrating all the designers that accomplished so many beautiful things that year. But I did a factory tour of Custom Wood Products, which is a luxury grade cabinetry brand in Kentucky, in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky factory that employs the whole town pretty much. And it was just so cool to watch. It's like precision engineering mixed with real skill, mixed with like, they private label for some of their clients. So they have like their own stamp on the inside of the cabinetry. It's just like so beautifully done. And to watch all of the process and the people that have been there for generations, and everybody you talk to, it was like, 45 years they've been there, 32 years they've been like, I didn't meet somebody who'd been there under 10 years, like not one person. Everybody's been in that company their whole career.
Awesome.
It's the
Yeah.
coolest thing ever. You want those
Yeah.
stories to tell your clients. Like that is, you know, really like this is really impacting real people, and they care so much about the quality. It
I
goes
think it
through
affects the
several
way people
processes.
shop too.
Yeah,
When you go into a store and you see different people working there, like you go in there next month, it's like, oh, it's a new staff or there's new people. You feel less connected to the store because there's such a high turnover.
nameless,
But
faceless, blah.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I've been here, I mean, we're a family company. So I've been here my whole life, but working full time for like 15 years. And all like people reach out to me, be like, hey, are you still there? I'm like, yeah, still here. But I've noticed that it affects the way that people, there's a familiarity and a connection to like consistency of people
Sure.
who stay in a company. So I mean, yeah, it's amazing that they've been there for so long, the company that you visit.
Yeah. It's exciting to see. And I want to switch gears a minute, because the second I heard about you, like I just heard through the grapevine that you were coming in as president of DPHA and you were going to shake things up, and that you had a lot of energy and you wanted to do big things, and you have only a limited time to accomplish it. What's on that
Yeah.
dream list? What do you want to see happen for DPHA in your term as president for this organization?
I think we've talked a lot about those points. Is one of them, the obvious thing that we've talked about is increasing that interaction and
So
better
you want more
aligning.
designers to come, for
We
sure.
do.
Do you
Yeah,
have a number on that? Do you know, you're like, I want 100 more designers to come,
for
1,000 more
me,
designers to come.
like I think the most we had was like over, I think 50, I think it was like 58 or something. For me, the milestone would be 100.
100.
Yeah, that's just, I mean, but that's just the milestone marker I'm setting. Like
Sure.
if we go to showcase this year, it's in Salt Lake City. If we come back and we're like 100 designers came to the showcase, I'd be like, wow,
Yeah,
that's
I did it.
what a major success. Yeah. So if I were to quantify it, it'd be 100. But sometimes like I host events here with designers and like I get a ton of RSVPs and then like 3 show up. But sometimes even like the 3 we like really connect. And so I'm like, you know what? That was successful because you even got 1 really or 2 really good connections. I think
Although I want to give you guys a hint. If you
yeah.
RSVP, and if you're listening to me, if you RSVP, and I've heard this from numerous brands that this happens so often. And I, even from my perspective, like if I'm doing events, and I have multiple ways I do events. So if I'm doing an event that I know you have to be there, I will get your phone number. I will tell you immediately when you RSVP. I'm like, look, this is an exclusive event. It's a sit down dinner. Like, you cannot be late and you have to show up. And if you don't show up, it counts against me, just so you know. So do not do that to me. But also to the brands, like, you don't understand, like, they're buying the food, they're getting the
Mhm.
drinks. Like, if you don't show up and you've RSVP'd, that's a bunch of wasted money that they could have spent on other things for their brand
Yeah.
that, so I just want people to be a little bit more. Sometimes I think designers were thinking like, oh, it's going to be a big thing. They won't
Yeah.
miss me if I don't come. My kid's sick today. And I get it. Like, I mean, my kids have been sick and I needed to stay home for things. So I
Yeah.
totally understand. But it is a big deal. Like when people are putting events together and, think about that in terms of the relationship you want to have with someone. I mean, would you want a client, a potential client, to make an appointment with you and not show up? Probably not.
Yeah.
So just be a little bit more, and I don't mean this as a lecture, but I just want you to know it does go noted. It does get
Thank you.
noted.
I feel so seen and heard. But yeah, I mean we would that would be a great turnout for us.
I would love
Just
that. And I
yeah.
hope that, I mean, so I've been helping Lee with Design Edge for a year and a half. And one of the things that he does that is, I think, really, really beneficial to get people there, because he has a commitment. It's a brand new show. It's only been in existence for 4 years. So we do ahead of the game activations and events. Like they do a calling out to those people to let them know the show is going on.
Hmm.
They have a lot of programming that is like immediately useful to the designer too. So creating the messaging that is very specific to the person you want to come, like this is what you're going to get out of it. This is how much, because even if it doesn't cost them, or if it does cost them, or whatever that might be, there's only so much they can do. Like there's so many trade shows, and it's always time away from the business. So there has to be a value add that they can walk away tomorrow with being able to do something that they couldn't do yesterday, better or
Yeah.
faster or quicker, So value add on the programming, and then calling them several times. Like we have a team that calls out to Design Edge people 3 times before we come, and we do a 500-mile radius around our spot, and we call people. They have a team that calls people every day. We do in-person activations coming into the show. So we'll do at different showrooms where this is what we're doing. This is why it's important. You should come, blah, 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 blah. But to get out, we get significantly more than 100. So I think you easily could do that with a bit of outreach. I think that definitely, like phone calls rather than just emails, DMs rather than just
Hmm.
emails.
Yeah. DMs
And
like you were saying.
I would be
Yeah.
like, this is the area. You're mostly going to get people that are in the Salt Lake, wherever you're going, within a 300-mile radius of wherever you're going,
Hmm.
because it's most convenient for them. So there are definitely people within that. And of course, I have a database in that area, so I could help you guys get that going before
We'd
you're,
obviously love to have you back
yeah,
there again. So
yes.
obviously.
But it's so great. I mean, I think you're missing out if you don't pay attention, especially to things like those small, unique products that not everybody has. I mean, it's only getting worse, like with the dupe.com and all of these like Shein style products that are knockoffs, that are junk. And the higher the commercial brands are value engineering every good thing out of it. So smaller luxury quality made products are harder and harder to find. So make those
Definitely.
relationships. Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
it has been so awesome, Phil. This has been so great. And I'll make sure that this gets out to our audience and they have all your information so they can find you and follow along and be a part of what you're building because I think it's so fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Had a great time.
Bye.
Bye.